So here's a question for you. How does an empire that has only ever known growth, how does it even recognize the sound of its own decline? Is it some big dramatic crash, or is it something quieter? Today, we're going to dive deep into what's happening at Google right now, but we're going to look at it through the lens of a high-stakes financial thriller, because it really feels like Google is getting a margin call. And this, right here, this is the central question. It paints this picture of a massive, powerful entity facing a threat so deep, so existential, that it might not even see it coming. It's not some loud, obvious enemy at the gates. It's more like a subtle, terrifying change in the background music. And that's the analogy we're running with, and it comes from this fantastic film, Margin Call. See, in a movie, they compare the looming 2008 financial crisis to music that's just slowly fading out. For Google, that music was 2 solid decades of just insane, unstoppable growth. And right now, yeah, it's getting dangerously quiet.
Okay, so to really get what's happening to Google, we first have to understand what this analogy even means. So what exactly is a margin call, and how in the world does that apply to a tech giant like Google?
Yeah, in the simplest terms, it's the ultimate moment of truth. It's when the market suddenly wakes up and realizes that the thing you've bet everything on, it's just not worth what you thought it was. It's this violent collision between what you believed and what's actually real, and you're forced to either pay up right now or lose everything. It's brutal.
All right, so how do we map this onto Google? Well, we can break it down into 4 simple steps. First, you've got the leverage. What are they overexposed on? Then the collateral. What's the belief holding it all up? After that, the volatility event, the big shock that changes the game. And finally, the margin call itself. Let's walk through this piece by piece.
First up, the leverage. This is almost comical. Alphabet, Google's parent company, is basically completely dependent on one thing: Google services. That one division, that's what pays for everything else. It covers the billions in losses from Google Cloud. It pays for all those other bets, the self-driving cars and whatnot. The entire empire is leveraged on this one single asset.
So, if that's the loan, what's the collateral backing it up? Well, it's a belief. It's this foundational assumption that Google's search and click ad model is invincible, that it's permanent, that it will always, forever be the only real gateway to the internet. And then, bam! The shock to the system, the volatility event. For Google, this was the sudden, brutal, mainstream explosion of generative AI. All of a sudden, that list of 10 blue links, it starts to look ancient, doesn't it? Especially when this new paradigm can just give you a direct, synthesized answer right away. And that brings us to the margin call, the demand to pay up. Only this time, it's not coming from a single broker, it's coming from everyone. The market, your competitors, even regulators. They're all screaming at Google to prove that its core business is still viable in this new AI world. They're saying, invent a new model or face a forced liquidation of your dominance. That's the choice.
Okay, so now that we've got the diagnosis, let's look at the symptoms. And the first one is, well, it's a weird one. It's this paradox where what looks like growth might actually be a sign that something is very, very wrong.
So, on the surface, everything looks great. The party is still raging. In 2025, Google is projected to handle a mind-boggling 13.6 billion searches every single day. That's an incredible number, and it's still growing. But what if that number is telling the completely wrong story? And this is where we get to the hidden story. The one that, let's be honest, we all feel every day. You know what I'm talking about. You have to rephrase your search over and over. You have to add Reddit to the end of it just to get a real human answer. You try 3, 4, 5 times to find something simple. Now, from Google's point of view, that's amazing. You just performed 3 searches to solve one problem. That's a 300% jump in engagement. But for you, it's a 300% increase in pure frustration. All right, let's move on to the next piece of evidence. And this is where you can really start to hear the music slowing down, not just for Google, but for the entire web. Just look at mobile. The numbers are staggering. Over 75%, 3/4 of all Google searches on mobile end right there on the results page. The user gets their answer from an AI summary or a little info box and never, ever clicks through to another website. Wow. If that's not the sound of the music slowing to a crawl, I don't know what is. And what this does is it just fundamentally breaks the deal, the social contract that built the open web in the first place. For decades, the deal was simple. Creators make great content, and in return, Google sends them traffic.
By hoarding that traffic for itself, Google is basically ripping up that contract.
And this kicks off this terrifying, self-destructive doom loop. Think about it. Step 1, Google starves websites and publishers of traffic. Step 2, because they're starved for traffic and money, the quality of the content on the web starts to degrade. Step 3, as the web gets worse, Google is forced to rely even more on its own AI summaries to give people answers. And step 4, well, that just accelerates the whole destructive cycle all over again. You can put it in really stark terms. It's like Google is trying to save itself by poisoning the very well from which it drinks. In its desperate attempt to protect its own dominance, it's destroying the ecosystem of high-quality information that its own models, and frankly all of us, completely depend on.
So what about the competition, the external threat? While we've been focused on all of Google's internal problems, it's very possible we've been asking the completely wrong question about who they're really up against.
See, everyone's been comparing Google Search to other AI-powered search engines, right? But that's not the real fight. For now, Google probably still wins that little battle. No, the real comparison, the real game-changing shift, is the battle between search as an idea and chat as a whole new way of getting information.
So it turns out the music hasn't actually stopped. It's just moved to a different party, a different club. While Google is over here trying to manage the slow decline of its old search and click model, millions and millions of users are flocking to these new conversational AI platforms. Think ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. There's a whole new party starting up, and Google, well, Google wasn't on the guest list. Which brings us right back to that late-night, high-stakes boardroom meeting. The era of dancing alone in the room is over. The choice that Google is facing today is the exact same one from the movie Margin Call. Do you initiate a painful, incredibly risky fire sale of your old trusted model in the hopes of surviving in a totally new world? Or do you just hold on tight and let the crisis consume you?